Welcome to ACTPod, a podcast show that sheds light on the stories and impact of the social sector. The show is proudly powered by Aspire Coronation Trust Foundation. Let's begin the change. Hello and welcome to ACTPod. My name is Omoye and I am very excited to invite you and welcome you on this episode of ACTPod. Today we'll be talking about something really great, something very, very important, critical, a conversation that must be had if you're driving impact and social change. And in recent years, we've had conversations around women empowerment, girl child empowerment, empowering women and girls. And in the midst of all of this, of course, there are talks about what about the boys? What's going on with the boys? Are they being neglected? Are we having conversations about them as we should? All right. And to further on this conversation, we have an amazing guest in the house today, and we'll be talking about what he's doing with regards to empowering the boy child through his organization, Boys Quarters Africa. And that's in person of Solomon Ayodele. Welcome to ActPod.
Thank you, Moya. Thank you for having me.
All right. Today, I'm pretty excited because, like I said, even before we started off this conversation, I'm quite interested in what goes on with the boy child, especially in a world where there's a whole lot of conversation about the girl child and empowering women. And we see that it is working. And yet, people are like, okay, looks like the women are getting it.
Correct.
So what's going on with the boys? Because it seems like the boys are now in need of actual attention. And so I'm excited to know that there's somebody who's doing something like this. So
Absolutely.
Right now, I'd love to first of all meet you. Who is Solomon Ayodele? And what got you on this journey to empowering the boy child through Boys Quarters Africa?
All right. Thank you very much again. Thank you for having me. My name is Solomon. I'm the founder of Boys Quarters Africa. Aside Boys Quarters, I lead innovation at a financial institution in Nigeria, Wema Bank. I head the innovation team, all of the inorganic growth endeavor of the bank. We started Boys Quarters 6 years ago. And, as much as possible, I try not to define myself based on activities or based on titles, right? I would say my overarching objective in life is to catalyze Africa's destiny through my voice and the power of technology. And I grew up with 4 brothers, religious parents. My dad and my mom, both pastors. And growing up, seeing all of the attention, all of the discipline, all of the tutoring, I realized that my brothers and I did everything wrong that every young boy would do, right? Everything you can think about. I then realized that for you to be able to raise a boy child, you need more than just the passive parental guidance, right? Something must be done. But about me, this is Solomon. I'm a Christian. I'm the founder of Boys Quarters. I'm a tech bro.
Hi, tech bro.
I'm a writer. I'm from Ekiti State. I mean, in the course of the conversation, I guess, some of the things about myself.
So when you were speaking about, and you mentioned that you're one of first 4 boys. I don't know what.
5.
Oh, okay. You have 4 brothers.
I have 4 brothers. I'm number 4.
And no girls.
No girls.
Okay. Because I'm quite. So we'll get there. Calm down. So because I'm just almost about to ask. But when you were speaking about saying the things that you guys did as brothers, you did all the things that boys would do. I was just thinking, like, what did you guys do? That's okay. No worries. I mean, you're grown now. I guess the past is in the past. But then now let's talk about Boys Quarters Africa. It's very exciting to hear about your entire portfolio. I'm thinking in my head how you're managing all these different things. But talking about Boys Quarters Africa, what inspired it? I would love to know the story behind Boys Quarters Africa.
All right. So I think a good way to set the premise is to say that I didn't have any intention to start any non-for-profits. By God's grace, I have a well-paying job. I'm an upwardly mobile young man. So I sort of don't need to be at the beck and call of any donor to live my life or to do whatever I have to do. In fact, a bulk of our commitment financially to Boys Quarters is basically from me and some of our friends and families who believe the work we're doing. But Boys Quarters Africa didn't start as an organization. after I left university in 2011,
Okay.
I just started writing about men, about boys, and all of that, just random stuff because I write. Then I recall that in 2017, I went for Babcock University's convocation. And the then governor of Ogun State was presenting the prizes for the best student in this faculty, that faculty. Interestingly and coincidentally, they were all girls. So
Wow.
at some point, the man just started screaming, "What is the problem with boys? You guys just want to dance, you want to go." And that was the year the video was in Babcock University. So it was
Okay.
almost like the man was even throwing shade to say, "You people want to just sing and dance and all of that." That moment was like an eureka moment for me. It was almost like saying, "Solomon, this is something you've been brooding on. Now is the time for you to get on it," right? So our first project was at the Correctional Center for Boys at Oregon Ikeja in 2018, December, right? So I wrote to a couple of my friends to say, "See, I'm going to this home. I want to talk to these boys." And I had almost 30 something of my friends show up across Lagos, right? After our first session, we called it Exchange Project, where we talked to boys about exchanging their pains for purpose. I realized that the school said, before I can return again to do anything, I cannot come as Solomon. I need to come as an organization. So I was pressed and forced to register an organization. So when I started thinking about it, what exactly do I want to achieve? So the idea about boys' quarters, for everybody familiar with Africa, the boys' quarters is always at the back of the house. So the idea is to say that we take boys to the back of the house, we reform them, we help them become better people, and we bring them back to the main building to add value to to society and to themselves.
Okay.
And the Africa behind this, because I know Africa has a deficit in leadership and management. And if you want to ruin the destiny of any continent, mess up with their men. So great drive with masculine, with feminism and all of that. Amazing stuff with empowering women and girls. But the truth is, if we don't fix this cancerous problem around paying hyper attention on girls, we're going to have well-raised, well-tutored, mature, amazing women who cannot find men to get married to. And the problem will not be the women. It will be, and you will find a lot of 14-year-old boys that cannot stand to have a conversation with a 14-year-old girl because the level of maturity and thinking miles apart, right? So this was how Boys Quarter started in 2018. And since then, we've engaged over 500,000 boys across multiple countries in Africa, just gradually doing what we can do, because it's an issue where people feel like you're either trying to emasculate men. People think you're trying to start an anti-feminism movement, right? So when people see me, they say, "Oh, you are trying to start something for boys too," So this was how Boys Quarter started, and of course, I'll talk about some of our projects in the coming conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I love the passion with which you speak about what you're doing. So I absolutely love the way and manner in which you spoke, and to
Correct.
nurture, tutor, empower them, and then bringing them out to the place where they should be so we can see them actually at their optimum, which is fantastic. And well done. The impact so far is amazing. Now, when I went to your website, I saw something and I wanted to read it before I ask my next question. So it says, "Crafting exceptional lives, boys and men leading change." At this point, I'd love to say, every time I want to say boys quarters Africa, what just always comes to my mind is boys to men. But it's good. So yes, and then the summary goes on to say, "We're a movement dedicated to crafting exceptional lives by educating, empowering, and advocating for boys and men who are leading change in their communities, guiding the next generation from boyhood to purposeful manhood." At this point, I want to ask about your model because I'm quite interested in what it looks like. What are your programs? What's your model like? What's your impact model like at Boys Quarters Africa?
All right. So we have a couple of strategic pillars of impact called LEAD.
Okay.
Leadership, education, empowerment, and advocacy. All of our projects are subsumed into those different strategic areas. And I'll say this with all sense of humility and carefulness. I'm trying not to, with the work I'm doing with Boy Scouters, I'm trying not to commercialize the boy child movement. I know we are now beginning to see a rise of a lot of coaches who are saying we're trying to coach boys and all of that. The challenge is the work we're doing is about the destinies of the different continents we're going to touch, right? So when it comes to leadership, we're trying to let boys know that the fact that you have a masculine genital doesn't mean you must be a leader. And we have experimented this over and over again. We have also found that this is the basis of domestic abuse, because the Bible never said the man is the head of the woman. The Bible said the husband is the head of the wife. And the reason why Africa is still at the precipice of about to happen glory is because we've not given women a chance to express themselves. And because men feel like they own the table, they then say, let's give women a seat on the table. So with leadership, we're trying to help the mind of boys see that, Oga, the fact that you're a man doesn't mean by default you must sit on top of a woman. So we go to a class of 300 boys and girls, and we tell everybody in the class, this girl is going to be your class captain. You can see the aggression in the faces of the boys. 13-year-old boys, 11-year-old boys, 10-year-old boys saying, oh, why? Why should Sandra be the class captain? And you ask them, they say, oh, a boy should be the class captain, a girl should be the assistant class captain. And you see that this is even already ingrained in our culture. By default, in schools, a boy must be the senior prefect. The girl must then be the assistant senior prefect, or in quotes, head girl. Yes. So even if both of them are called head boy and head girl, there is a nuance that shows that the boy is the leader, right? So with leadership, we're trying to, through our different boot camps, we're trying to engage boys. So allow them see that leadership is beyond just your gender, right? And because I've seen it with the trend in the last 11 to 12 years, just actively studying, I've seen that in the coming years, we're going to have more wealthy women. So we want to raise boys who are emotionally secured enough to get married to women who are more richer than they are. And if we don't fix that now, we're going to have a lot of broken marriages. Men will not be able to take it. You know, by all standard, I mean, I have colleagues who earn 5 times, 7 times what I earn, right? And I don't get my self-worth based on my naira and kobo. I get my self-worth based on what I bring to the table, my wisdom, right? So with leadership, we do that. Under empowerment, you know, we go to special correctional centers to we adopt boys, engage them consistently, tech trainings, vision boarding and all of that, so that by the time they leave these correctional centers, they don't remain the way they used to be before they joined. Under advocacy, we run a continent-wide campaign called Boys Too. In 2021, we ran a survey with over 2,000 boys, 2,000 men above the age of 18, just asking them a couple of questions. What was the first time you had your first sexual encounter? We realized that 99.7% of them got involved in any sexual activity before the age of 18, meaning they were raped before 18. But this is an underreported case. And when you ask a boy, for example, ask a young man that when was the first time you got involved in anything sexual, they say, before I was 18 and I enjoyed it. Because there's an idea that boys enjoy it. It is underreported. And a lot of men are walking, talking, trauma-induced humans because of the abuse. Absolutely. So a bulk of them were abused by their aunts, by their teachers, by their uncle. In fact, there's even a cancerous one around religious leaders abusing men. And it's a major, major issue. So, I mean, I've been dragged severally because of this, and I wouldn't stop saying it. It's a major issue that we must pay attention to, because what we're seeing now is we're seeing men who have been abused for years, and they get into a relationship with an innocent young girl, and they get married. And you see the man is just aggressive, hesitant, just not being able to have a conversation, just being unusually. The problem is it's not like the guy is not a good guy, but he has a lot of trauma. He's angry at his auntie 17 years ago, but it has not been addressed. So with Boys to campaign, we're trying to help boys say it is okay for you to express yourself. And I mean, abuse is abuse, rape is rape, irrespective of the gender. Absolutely. And in fact, I hope you know that it was until 2019, they included boys and men under the penal code for rape. So meaning 7 or 8 years ago, if a man or if a boy was abused or raped, people would be like, well, if I happened recently this year, I think March or April, an hotelier abused a young man. And when they were interviewing him, the guy said, no, I'm not trying to use him for ritual. I only slept with him. Can you imagine? So people assume when you abuse boys, it is just the norm. Boys should be okay. So that's what we do under advocacy. And under education, as much as possible, we believe these are statistically proven. I have my personal bias about it. I believe there are more out of school boys than out of school men, out of school girls, right? But because there's a lot of sensationalism with girls, with women, and because again, women have been abused for long, they've been disenfranchised for long. So I expect the aggression with raising campaigns. But what would then happen is, for example, the issue with terrorism in the north, you cannot fix it without fixing education. So waste your time getting, armies to get to northeast, northwest, and all of that. But when you don't fix the fundamental problem around education with the boys. So on the education, we advocate. We have a couple of boys we currently sponsor across different schools across Nigeria. And these are the pillars. And as much as possible, we work within this pillar. There are some things I don't do as a boy child advocate if it is out of the bandwidth of what our organization does.
Absolutely. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much. So I hear leadership, I hear empowerment, I hear
education
and advocacy. Yeah. That's a lot that you're doing, and well done.
Thank you.
Well done. And I like the fact that, of course, it's something you're absolutely passionate about, because many a times and you've done this for about 6 years, many a times we see people come up with amazing stuff they want to do, things they want to address, and somewhere along the line, they lose steam and interest. But to see you still very passionate after 6 years, I want to say well done and kudos. Thank you. Thinking about how you started off launching this entire thing, I'm just imagining, were there challenges you encountered? How did you get people to come on board with what you believe in and just to support you? Even just communicating the whole idea to partners, to sponsors, and how has it been for you?
I'll say tough. The biggest support we've gotten is from women. Interestingly, over 80-something% of our 172 volunteers, they're women.
Wow.
But starting at the very beginning, I had a lot of issues around men saying I was trying to emasculate men, right? And I'm grateful to God I have a job. So what I usually tell them is, I'm not trying to start another NGO. I'm not doing this because I'm looking for my daily bread. It is because I truly believe that the future of our continent resides within the space, right? Okay. I've been walked out of a national TV station before talking about the abuse of the boy child. And the producer was saying, Oga, why are you lying? Why are you making up stories? Now we're beginning to hear stories about some of these things, although grossly underreported. Right? And I would say that being able to convince people, I believe that the fruit of my work is not a 100-meter dash, it's a marathon. People will not see the impact of the work we're doing in another 11, 12, 15 years. And I'm happy to see this through, right? So I'm not in a hurry. I'm not at the mercy, and I say this with all sense of humility, of donors, because we've had times when we've written to a lot of people and they're like, oh, why are you trying to do something for boys? A lot of things is happening for men. Men are empowered and all of that and all of that. And I say, okay, not a problem. You guys will come back 15 years later to ask us, how can we fix this? Because what you would then see is they would then have a lopsided, kind of carnival where you have done everything you need to do for girls. You've done everything you need to do for boys, for women, right? And there's now a major masculine crisis, a major, So I think for me, it's just having the vision in mind, right? And just consistently telling my story in whatever platform I have to tell it, and just I'm a very stubborn person. So
I had to come close to the microphone to say that.
So as much as possible, I, just keep saying it, keep doing it. And I believe with time, people will say it.
Absolutely. Well done. And I want to ask, because I know that as usually when we come on these conversations, time is usually running.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to have, I feel like my time is almost over. So let me talk about how you're able to get the boys to come to that place of vulnerability where they can actually, that safe space rather, where they can actually be quite vulnerable with you in the process of, especially around your, in fact, every part of what you do, leadership, empowerment, because you have to really get them to a certain point where they feel safe enough to open up to you. How does your organization do it? Do you have a certain model that helps you achieve this?
Before we got to the point where we started getting therapists to sort of support the work we're doing, I think the biggest tool is vulnerability. Boys don't learn from the perfection of other men.
Absolutely.
Boys learn from the vulnerability of other men. So when I come to them to say, see, there's nothing you're going through. When I was 11, this was what happened to me. When I was 9, this was what happened to me. When I was 13, this was what I'd done and all of that. It has been the key to unlock those boys just opening up. I think that vulnerability has just been the thing for us, as it were. I won't try to come up with any kind of psychological whatever. The truth is, the moment boys see that people are telling relatable stories, they just open up to say, oh, uncle, me too. Me too. Whenever I sleep, this is what I go through. And I'll tell them, oh, I went through that 15 years ago when I was this, when I was that, and all of that. So I think vulnerability has been the key for us.
All right, thank you. So how would you describe the impact of what you're doing so far? Good, excellent, getting there?
I would say it's still day one. We're still at the beginning of the work. But I would say
you can see some level of
absolutely. I mean, a lot of young boys, some of them now in the university who we met when they were 12, 13, some of them 11. Those are the fruits of our labor, as it were, right? So I'd say it's a good one. And we're glad to see the kind of progress we're making.
Fantastic. Let's talk about collaboration, partnership. I know you had mentioned that it's quite challenging to get people to collaborate, maybe in the earlier days, but with what you've done so far and your track record, what kind of has it been? How is it now? Not how has it been? I know it was tough starting, but how is it now? Are people warming up? Our partners? Are you now having partners? Are you having sponsors? People warming up to what you do?
Absolutely. So in terms of partnership, we got a grant from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Netherlands 3 years ago through a partnership with Connected Development. And we're beginning to see organizations see the work we're doing. So shout out to Hamza Lawal, the founder of Connected Development. He sort of helped broker a relationship with Oxfam Voices, and we got some grant that allowed us implement a project across Lagos, Enugu, and Abuja, right? And for example, our last International Boy Child Summit, we had tons of partners, Techno, of course, Wema Bank, UAC Food. We got a bulk of the work we did with the Boy Summit was based on sponsorship and partnership, right? So we're beginning to see people warm up to us, people beginning to see the work we're doing. I think most importantly, because we have the arm of Boy Scouts that is focused on men. So there's a part called Guyversation, where we bring men together to just talk about their mental health and all of that. So those men are now like the evangelists in their different companies who are now beginning to open doors for us that can help us support the work we're doing with boys. So I think we're in a good time already, and we're seeing people warm up to us and come to the table for partnership.
That's great. I think that usually that's the thing for many people who come into this sector. Well, for you, it wasn't like you wanted to, but then you're here. And so for people who come in, many a times we get discouraged in the earlier years because usually at that point you're in the state where you're trying to prove.
Correct.
You have a whole lot of things to prove.
Correct.
And I think just hearing your story gives us a lot of encouragement, telling us we can't give up. If you're doing a great work, keep at it. Even when it seems like it's not one that is, it's not popularly accepted and publicized, as it were. Let's wrap up with this question, and it would be, what do you think the government, and now that I'm about to ask, I feel like you're going to shoot some bullets at some people, but please take it easy. But what do you think the government, non-profits, the civil societies, what do you think we can do to support more conversations or create more spaces for the boy child and just to help them with their masculinity like you're doing?
Thank you. I think a good way to answer this question is to start by saying, I think good is expensive than evil. And for you to do real good, there's a lot of collaboration required. So there are a lot of boy child, campaign springing up here and there. And what I tell, first, for those in the third sector, those of us in the NGO space, we need to collaborate because the problem we want to solve is more than us. So regardless of even if you get 5 billion in grants, or that is your means of livelihood, at the end of the day, when you think about the end results, it's about touching lives. If we can come together as much as possible to, instead of dissipating our energies into, pushing a singular front, and I'm not saying go and shut down your NGO, whatever it is. If you're doing something that you feel like, Boy Scouts can be a part of it, right? Let's talk. Let's come to the table. How can you bring your own expertise to the table? So, for example, Boy Scouts is building an app called MyGuide.me. It's going to be on App Store and Play Store in the next 2 months. It's going to be Africa's first male-centered therapy. On that platform, boys will be able to connect with older men, mentors. For mentorship, there will be communities for single fathers, for divorcees, for those who are coming back from different acts and all of that. We're also looking at how we can bring in other parties on board, right? Those in the third sector. What other things can we do on that platform? So we are thinking, how can we collaborate? So for the third sector, I think it's important for us to, come together, work together. Even if we're doing the same thing, there's a lot we can do together, right? That's one. For the government, I have my personal issues with them, right? But I think it's important for the government to step down their high horses and understand that some of us who are doing this work, we're not beggars on the street. We're not trying to get anything from them. It is because we're deeply passionate about this work. So there's a need for us to have more conversation between the private and the public sector. It is clear that, because of the inconsistencies of our government, somebody is there this year, the next day the person is not there. So we are the guys who can help them create frameworks. So for example, 2 months ago, I was with the Ministry of Innovation trying to push a bill, right? So I work for a bank. The Ministry of Innovation is calling me to the party to come and help them rework what they're doing. I think the same thing should be replicated across different industries, different ministries that are looking after, the third sector, right? So there's a need for us to have public and private conversation. I also think in terms of funding, the government should also support in their ways, right? It may sound very weird, but the truth is the money you're spending to just spray anyhow, there are structured organizations who can help you and can judiciously manage these funds, right? At the end of the day, the work with masculinity is not a Boy Scouters thing. It's an everybody thing, right? So if you're doing something for girls, for climate change, for whatever, I believe any nation that wants to secure our future must pay attention to their boys and men, right? So if you raise girls, tutor them, teach them how to cook, how to talk, how to walk, how to dress, at the end of the day, you would then send them to the house of an irresponsible young man who has never been taught how to talk, how to cook, how to dress, how to have conversation. Then you start praying and saying, God, help the family of my child. So we must all come together to realize that this is about our future. So whilst we're engaging girls, let's pay attention into raising better men through boys.
Fantastic. I believe that all the different quarters and stakeholders
all the different quarters. I like that.
They've heard you and we've taken note of everything that you said. And thank you so much. Thank you for just, speaking your mind. It's on a light note, not light note, but I feel like one last question and it's a wrap. Do you have like a mantra or a quote that guides you through life and through what you do? Maybe now, we have at different points. What's one that is guiding you right now? Do you have one?
Yeah.
Which is,
I said it earlier.
Yeah.
Good is expensive than evil.
Good is expensive than evil. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Solomon Ayodele, for being on ACTPod. It was really amazing having this very interesting and relevant conversation with you. All right, this is what we'll call it a wrap on this episode. Thank you so much. The boy child needs a lot of attention. And if you're doing any work in this regard, kudos and well done. And for those of us who are partners out there, this is something that you need to plug into. All right, so we'll come your way again next time. Stay blessed. Stay happy. Bye.
Thank you for listening to ACTPod. For inquiries and feedback, please reach us on actpod@actrustfoundation.org. Follow us on social media at actfoundation_ on Instagram and Twitter, and Aspire Coronation Trust Foundation on Facebook. The show is proudly powered by Aspire Coronation Trust Foundation. ACTPod, our story, our continent.